So I'd like Marjorie, if she's ready, come on up here, and David will join her shortly. Marjorie and David are interior designer and building architects from Nashville, Tennessee, and good friends of mine, and you'll enjoy their talk. The Curious Case of the Taj Mahalics.
Can you hear me? David's coming up. What we want to talk about today, we've got a lot of pictures to show you because we feel like pictures say 1,000 words versus us just telling you about what to do at the clubhouse. Today we want to talk about actually functionality of a clubhouse, flexibility of a clubhouse, as well as the aesthetics of a clubhouse. Now, the most important thing that we want to show to you today is about a 3,000 square foot clubhouse or less, and what you can do within a 3,000 and how it can accommodate affordable golf, because we feel like that's very important. We actually did just some basic components of a required space, and this is what we call right sizing. And right sizing means the adequate space to make a club functional. So with that, you can do your dining, whether you're going to do formal or informal. Probably the majority of the clubhouses will be more informal because you want to do a grill. It's just something simple for them to come in, have a hot dog, leave. But what comes with that is the right size kitchen and what you need to accommodate within a kitchen. We have the bar area, turn area. We're seeing that those are used as a double where you have a bar and you can also have the turn area with it. We have, which is very popular, to do lounges and fireplace. If you just do a big open space and you have a bar and then you also have a lounge where you have seating for 4 to 6 people, then you have with the fireplace, the aesthetics are already there. So you've already invited them, your guests, to come in and your members. Kitchen, we need to make sure that it's large enough to accommodate the goals of the F&B, so whether that's pizza, hot dogs, burgers, whatever you're going to be serving, just to make sure that it's large enough. And then the men's locker room, bathroom, the women's locker room, and the bathroom, and the pro shop. These are really the only rooms and areas you need for a very functional clubhouse. Now then we go back to, okay, so what's the square footage of this, and how do you accommodate that to accommodate your members and your staff? Now, one of the things that we always suggest to communicate with your members, what do your members value, and have you surveyed your members lately? We're actually doing one golf club, and we asked them if they have talked to their members lately or even surveyed them. They said no. What they normally do is just do it, and then what happens is they get a lot of grief after the fact because they did not communicate with them. So now they're going through, and they've done several renovations, and it never fails. They're always getting their hands spanked. And so now we're telling them, okay, well, let's do it the other way. Let's communicate with your members, even whether they're members or not, if they're going to come in and play golf, so it depends on if you're a public-private course. Please talk to your customers and your guests and see what they want. Flexibility is a key issue. Think about your multi-purpose rooms, whether you have an outside area as a pavilion that you can do events, whether you can do weddings out there, or even a lot of your golf tournaments can happen there as well. And then future expansion. What areas generate the most revenue, the ROI? What do you gain? We talked about yesterday, I believe they were saying some of the F&B where you have hot dogs and some other things, those are just give-me's and freebies. So if that's, and they make a lot of money. So if that's the case, let's look at that and see how we can expand upon that regarding a clubhouse design. Space requirements. Understand the square footage requirements per each space. We've got some cheat sheets if any of y'all are interested on how to determine how big a table should be, a round table with how many chairs, the aisle distance. If you ever want to lay out a space within yourself, just come see us and we'll be happy to email you some cheat sheets on this, because if you've got a big room and you need to lay it out, determine how many seats you want and how many tables you want, we can give you that and just kind of give you a rule of thumb.
This also goes back to how you're going to be using the space. If it's a banquet seating or classroom seating such as this, it all takes different requirements. So you need to kind of think about what are you going to be using the spaces for. Is it for members, is it for outside events coming in? And we can help you with some of those. There are standards that you do follow. Much like when you design a golf course, there's also standards inside the building that you follow. That you need certain spatial relationships to make it work.
Storage. If there's one thing we always hear, there's not enough storage. We need more storage. We need more storage. Prime example is if you have a room and you have your dining chairs and you have your banquet chairs and you know you need to store them. Case in point, know the width of the chairs. These are just some basic components because we have seen in several of the clubs that we've toured that what happens is because they did not know the width of the chairs and how many would stack and how wide the aisles would be, they made the room 6 inches too small. Had they made it to 6 inches larger, which they had the room to do, they could actually accommodate another row of chairs, of stacked chairs, and that's a lot. That's a lot of wasted space right there. So, in other words, they were short, just the 6 inches. They had only accommodated about 10 inches, so all we needed was 15 inches to accommodate more stacked storage. So take into consideration, this goes back to the cheat sheet we're happy to give you, the width and the dimensions of your furniture so you know how to stack them. Do they roll in? How high do they stack? It's just these little details that will help you accommodate with your storage.
Again, this gets back to what functions are you using? Are you going to need round tables? Are they 6-foot round tables, 5-foot round tables? Are they square tables? Are they rectangular tables? In different events, will require you to have different size tables or configurations of tables. That helps you figure out how much storage space you need. So it all goes back to your marketing plan, all goes back to the customer that you're trying to serve, what their needs are.
And then finishes. Of course, that's so important to a lot of clients that we see. When was the last time you updated your facility, even if it was painting? And painting can go a long way. We understand with the economy, not a lot of people can afford to go out and totally do a renovation. But what you perhaps can do is at least gain a master plan. And with a master plan, that might be to a 2 to a 3 to a 4-year plan. But what we're seeing is if you even paint or you even change out the carpet, you just do a little thing, your customers come in and they think, wow, what changed? It looks so much better here. What have you done? And then we're doing a lot of presentation boards where we're just putting them on easels, showcasing again to the members, well, guess what? We do have a plan to do something over the next 3 to 4 years, and this is what we're going to do. So we, again, have prepared visuals to show them the visuals.
And what that does is it creates excitement within your facility. It gets people excited about coming to see what's changing next, what's happening in the future. It gives them a vision. Once they buy into the vision, they're going to be visiting the facility more often. That increases your revenue source and increases your revenue stream.
Some of the spaces that do not work that we've seen is that's creating a golf shop that competes with your retail golf shop. So you have to be conscientious of that. Having a locker for every member. We're seeing now where we're going to a lot of half lockers instead of full lockers. And you also don't have to have a locker for every member because we're seeing the majority of them live around in the area. So perhaps they don't even need the locker. So don't take up a lot of square footage for that.
The golf shop, what we're talking about competing with the golf shop is your retail strip center golf shop, your golfsmiths, golf galaxies, those kinds of shops. No one's just trying to sell. You're not necessarily selling in a golf shop at a facility or in a club, sets of irons and drivers. Yes, your members may want one, and believe me, I'd love to buy one for my golf pro, but they can always order it, they can always get it in. You just don't have the room in the space, and you're not really going to be able to compete with those guys because they're dealing on volume, and you're not going to be able to. But you're going to be selling shirts, balls, paddles, caps, tees, those kinds of things. They don't require a lot of space, so you don't need a huge display area. As far as the locker room, you want to be able to keep everyone happy with lockers. Can you? I don't know. Every club we go to, they always seem to have a problem. Either too many lockers or not enough lockers being rented. Where's that fine line? We always like to err on the side that you want to have a waiting list because it keeps people excited about wanting to get into your locker room and have a locker. We think it's better to go on that side of the equation rather than having a cabinet's room that's not being used, which is wasting money for your facility.
We're also seeing that a lot of clubs either have a whirlpool or sauna or a steam room, and we're seeing in particular for the women, they're not using these. But on the flip side, we're also seeing what the men have, the women want, regardless if they use it or not. So there's a fine line there. And so you have to kind of see which way they go. But it's a lot of money to spend. And we're also saying if you update your bathrooms, in particular the showers, and we're going to show you some examples, do you necessarily need to spend money on the whirlpool sauna and steam room? Probably not, with all the bells and whistles that are now out for the showers, and we'll show you some examples. Another issue we see is serving food in the locker room, and we'll show you an example of that. And then providing a kitchen to serve meals that are not part of the F&B plan. We're seeing a lot of that where the kitchen is too large, it's not really, it's way over accommodating what they need, or it's too small, and it's either one way or the other. So we need to be conscientious, and that goes back to your master plan. What are you serving? What's your ROI? All of those details do come into play.
And again, it gets back to your marketing plan, who your customers are. What kind of events are you having? That dictates how big your kitchen is and what kind of system you need in your kitchen. If you're doing a lot of banquets, then you need a banquet-style kitchen. If you're doing individual meals and an individual prep, that's a different style kitchen. Get something that's efficient that works for your facility. We've done some facilities that their kitchen is just absolutely way too small, but they've been able to do fantastic meals out of it. The quality of food is what brings your customer in. So think about that. Maybe your menu is not all-encompassing, but if you concentrate on a few areas and do them well, you'll always have a full dining room.
Then, of course, overspending or overdeveloping a single component, which David was saying. Some of the other space efficiencies you need to consider would be design the clubhouse to correspond to the peak traffic flow of each day. If you're looking at doing a minor renovation or updating, then watch your club and see when your peak traffic is and plan your space around that, not around trying to be everything to everybody, just what you're doing. Doing a combination of the bar turn area, that again leaves you to flexibility, multi-use space, etc.
What you're trying to do is reduce the number of employees that it takes to operate your facility. You can have one person that's working the bar, maybe they also have someone else in the kitchen. Those two people should be able to take care of a turn on a fairly busy day. So you've got two people that are really taking the places of three. Again, it all goes back to how your club is designed. Does the 9 code come back to the clubhouse or not? Is the window on the path 1 to the 10th tee? All these things get into the development of your club and how it's really used. So some of you may be able to do these things, some may not. But there are also other ways to get around this.
Wait stations, and I'm going to show you some examples later on. But what we're seeing, if you've got a dining room or a grill room, and you've got a small kitchen, but you need to, and it's so crowded in the kitchen, we have actually put some of the wait stations into the grill area, and that would be the area where you can get your beverage, your soup, your bread. So it eliminates your wait staff to go into the kitchen, and they're prepping right outside into the grill room. So it's a twofold there. One, it's very customer service oriented, so they don't have to go all the way back to the kitchen or even into the kitchen, and it's right there, and they can serve their members quicker. Again, multi-purpose rooms. Look at some private dining rooms that could turn into a boardroom or a conference room. Again, we're seeing a lot of the members that work out of their house, they want to use a place to come set up for a facility, for their boardroom, and this is an easy place to do it. And then again, food storage. We're seeing a lot of the food storage, which is made once a week. You need to look at how much is being delivered every week because you don't have the food storage, because that's an increase in cost to you. As well as we're seeing some food storage that's not really in the kitchen, like the freezer. They might even put that where the golf carts are. So you need to look at, again, flexibility of your space. Again, some other things very quickly. You've got technology. We're just make sure that your club has a lot of the Wi-Fi, some of the latest technologies going on. And we're also seeing that because of this, some of the members, they want to take phone calls, and whether you're allowed to have the phone ring or not. We're also putting in additional rooms where they can go make a phone call, and it's a little private, and they can do some of their business there. So again, it's the flexibility of the space.
Again, it's getting your members there so they can use the club. If you've got, it seems to there's more and more small private businesses that are cropping up, particularly with the downturn in the economy. People have to go out and start their own business. If you want to get them in the club, they need to be able to do some business there. Set up an area for them, or set up an area that they can go and do that that's not affecting the rest of the club. The longer and the more often that they're in the club, of course, that's another revenue, more revenue your club's going to obtain. So, and then also the population number. The younger kids are, if they lose their wireless devices, I don't know what this new generation is going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do if I don't have a phone with me all the time. It's just something that's kind of developed over time that our clubs are really having a tough time trying to figure out how they fit in this or how those kinds of wireless devices work inside the clubhouse and still maintain tradition.
One of the things we also will show you in some photos is the creative use of finishes. As an example, there are a lot of ways to skin the cat. This is a real marble, the cream of our field, that's pretty expensive that you're seeing used in a lot of the restrooms and a lot of the floors and a lot of the lobbies. They have now come out with tile that's half the cost that looks exactly the same. So most of your guest members really won't know, but what they will know is, oh wow, you've updated the facility and it looks good. So there are a lot of ways that we've come up with the new technology today to save some money and to still have an aesthetically nice clubhouse without thinking you had to spend a whole lot of money. And that's really what we want to get through to you today is some of these ways, some of the ways that you can incur and decrease your costs. Lighting. It's interesting on lighting. Go back to your clubhouse and look at all the bulbs that you've got as well as the lamps. We have done an assessment on quite a few clubs and it's amazing to see how many different type bulbs there are, whether it's a recessed can, whether it's just a lamp, but the bulbs are different. Therefore, all of your output on your light fixtures are different and it causes havoc and it's just not the subtle clean look. So those are minor ways to change.
If you'll notice, even in here, you've got an incandescent bulb in the cans, which just produces a yellow light, compared to what you've got in your strip fluorescents, which produces a bluer colored light. It's all based on temperature of the bulb. When you go into a club, or in a lot of facilities, you may see a fluorescent fixture, but there'll be a yellow tube and a very, very white tube in it. Well, that's a warm white and a cool white. All of them, they have different temperatures that those fixtures would burn. With the advent of LED, LED is typically a very white light. It's a very blue light. It burns very bright. So what a lot of people are, or what clubs are seeing now, to get the more warmer incandescent light, which is a warm white look, they're putting in filters. We were at a club last week and that was all incandescent, it was all recessed cans with LED bulbs in it, or LED fixtures in it. And I asked the guy, I said, so how long did it take you to put those in? He said, oh, we just screwed them in. So we had to play a little bit with these gelatins to get the light, get the warm color that we wanted. He said, but the savings in cost is phenomenal. I said, really, how much is it saving you in electrical costs? So our electric bill's gone down $2,000 a month. It was amazing. I don't know what he spent on these bulbs, but he's going to get the payback on those things pretty quick. That's just changing over, just one thing changing over to LED. As the future comes along and you're getting to use LED more and more, they're getting more fixtures, they're getting a better sense of how to operate them. The cost is going to go down. So in the future, that's something you might want to keep in mind, to be able to install in your fixture. Right now, you've got a selection of incandescent, not necessarily A lamps, power lamps. You've got the strip fluorescents, you've got the compact fluorescents, and now the LEDs are coming on board. So you've got a wide selection, all of produce light a different color. So you've got to really think about that. Also in your dining room, when you start lighting your dining room, the color of your lamp makes the food look different color. Years ago, there was a chain called Shoney's. I don't know if y'all are familiar with them. They always used a pink light in their facilities. Pink light made their meat look nice, well done, and made it appetizing. So those kinds of colors makes your food look different. A very bright light makes greens look blue. Don't look very appetizing. A different color light will make it look bright green. It makes it more appealing.
That's a whole nother subject on lighting and lighting of we've done that before, and it's very, very interesting because if you put a plate down, you have one kind of lighting, and then all of a sudden your spinach looks wilted. That's not very appetizing at all. Again, we're going to go to some exterior venues. We'll hurry up. Future expansions, what to look like, furniture styles. Mix up your furniture styles. That helps a lot. You don't have to have the grill, all the same tables, all the same chairs. It gets awfully boring. Mix it up. You can do round tables, square tables, high top tables, low tables, bistro tables, lounge chairs. Mix it up. In today's economy, you go into a restaurant and you'll even see benches mixed in with different kind of tables. That in itself creates excitement in your clubhouse. So it doesn't have to be the pull-up chairs with the plastic tables and the plastic chairs anymore. There are a lot of different options out there. This might be something if you're interested in this. If you want to look at or if your facility is about 3,000 square feet, or you want to look at building a 3,000 square foot facility, here are just some areas just to look at. Dining room to seat perhaps 53, you've got 900 square feet. What we're allowing for is about 15 to 19 square feet per person to determine your seating. So again, these are a lot of rule of thumbs if you're trying to lay out a club or reposition and see how you can maximize your space. What we're also seeing are additional optional spaces where you want an exercise facility. You might want a multi-purpose room, exterior seating with a fire pit. These are extremely popular right now. Pavilion, spa room, daycare, and a tween room. We're seeing that these are very hot items if there's any way you can accommodate it or have it for growth. This is a club in Annapolis, Maryland, and it was about 3,000 square feet. And what we did is the first phase, and that's where, again, we did a gala event for the members, and we showcased to them a layout. And with the layout, we had several different areas, and of course that was to increase not only the seating, but also to increase their membership. They were going from a daily fee to more of a member fee for this one. And go ahead.
They were trying to, this is a club that they were, again, it was a daily fee club. They were trying to make it private. They were doing something that was really bucking the trend. And they started this in 2007. This has continued on. They're still in operation today. They're actually still expanding today. But they had 0 members in 2007, which is really the beginning of the downturn of the economy. They went ahead, they felt like they could really do something with this particular facility. It was a nice course. It was in a fairly upper scale residential area. It's right outside of Annapolis. But what they did is they had a golf shop. Really, it was more of a retail shop. They had sets of clubs. They had balls stacked everywhere. They had a lot of inventory. And they were having a difficult time trying to move this. So what they asked us to do is to come in, help put something together so they could have a marketing plan, have something to show to prospective members, and help them start this club out. So we went through, did some sketches.
That's what that is.
Put this together, had a gala, brought people in by invite. At the end of the first evening, they had 90 members signed up. 3 months later, once they hit a certain level, they said, well, we'll start the renovation, which is what this is over here on the right.
And they got the 90 members because of the communication. It was the presentation, it was the gala. They informed their members what they were doing.
Or prospective members.
Prospective members. And then they pursued it and followed through. So again, going back to a lot of different ways, and believe it or not, this facility, to totally renovate it, it was under $500,000, but that includes a lot of the equipment as well. So with that, what we did is you could take round columns and you turn them into square columns. So there are little things like this where the checkout was for all of the golf items, we turned that into the bar area. The kitchens behind this, it remained the same. With the bar area, let's see, even on the side of the bar area, which I have a picture in a minute, it's the turn area. So we did, again, we made the flexibility of the space happen, and that's what made the space work. This is going looking to the outside. This is the same area. What we did is we added wainscot at the bottom. You can see that now this is white now. It's the same white. We just painted it brown to accommodate. So it's not like we went back and put in one clad because that would cost some money. We just painted it a brown. So if y'all want to ask any questions on any of this, please feel free to do so. Added a TV. that's behind this unit right there. So again, we made it a sports bar too.
And that way you can close the TV off, you can do more formal dining. If it's not a formal affair, open it up. It's like I said, sports bar or a very casual dining.
You can see right here, this was their turn, and it's actually still their turn. So they still walk in, they grab what they want, and then they go back out. So nothing's changed, we just cleaned it up.
The kitchen in this particular facility, when we went in, the hottest thing they could fix was a hot dog. They had a hot dog roller. When we finished, we put in a grill, really outfitted the kitchen so that they could make anything they wanted. So they were cooking steaks, seafood, gumbos. It was great.
And you can see here they had lighting, fluorescent tubes, and some recessed cans. We just added all recessed cans. We did not change out the ceiling tile either. So again, it was just a lot of cosmetics that we did. This is another facility that just shows, again, a multi-purpose room where you could take a private dining room and turn it into if you need for it to be a bar, a boardroom. So again, think about multi-purpose rooms and how you can screen off an area within your grill or within your area to do a boardroom or a conference room. Right sizing of a workout facility. You don't need a lot, but we're seeing this is extremely popular today. 500 square feet will get you pretty much all you need to take care of a facility of about 3,000 square feet. Again, looking at women's lockers, that's all you need. You don't need a ton of lockers because again, we're seeing women really are not using lockers like men do. They go home and change and do whatever they need to do elsewhere. This is showing flexible space, a pavilion. If you happen to have a pavilion on your course, this is where we held the gala for the golf club at South River. We've had weddings in this pavilion, so a lot of different things happen there. So think about the flexibility of what can go on in your pavilion.
If this is a space that's actually attached to your building, you can easily incorporate that in cooler weather, even colder weather, by tinting the outside of it, putting in, if you have a fireplace or some auxiliary heat, you can put out there. You get a couple more months use out of the facility that's outside. It's cheap space to really increase your areas that you can have a ton of revenue from.
Again, another area for an extended grill. It doesn't have to be enclosed. It can just be almost part of an open truss system. Again, just an open area, flexible space. Just do some ceiling fans. That adds ambiance as well as just adds for the temperature. And again, you can note, you see the different height furniture, bistro, smaller tables. So it's the flexibility of all the seating that you've got that will make a space. Again, if you can, put an outside grill or a fire pit or whatever you can accommodate, however you can accommodate, because that enhances it as well and the ambiance too.
And it also provides a little break in the chill in the evenings if you were particularly in cooler weather. Again, it gets more use out of the space.
This is a club where they actually enclose the outside, put up heaters, and now they can serve their members outside. So if you can afford to do that, this is just another way to gain more revenue of what you've already got.
One point that you might want to make sure before you just start plugging heaters in is those things do draw quite a few amps. You can pop a circuit pretty quick. So make sure if you're planning something like this and you're building it, you've got different circuits to provide power to those things because they do draw quite a bit of power and they go through the breakers pretty quick.
Again, additional space, a pavilion. Use it as flex space. This pavilion happens to have a fire pit in it.
The fireplace.
Fireplace. Going into showers, what we talked about earlier, some of the do's and don'ts are some of the next photographs. We're seeing a lot of clubs, this is what they look like now. And for women in particular, they'll never use this because there's not enough privacy. Men might, but what we're also seeing is if you were just to take your tile, put it on the ceiling, add some of your bells and whistles, do a seat, then you can get away with your sauna and your steam room and your whirlpool because this goes a long way and it's half the cost. In particular, if you go with the tile that we were showing you that doesn't necessarily have to be the marble, but you're still getting the nice results and a very nice aesthetic look from it.
This has a rain head in the ceiling. It's got a glass door on it, so you are creating a lot of steam inside the space, so you don't need a steam room. It's more of a spa type shower, but it's a whole lot less expensive than putting in a whirlpool.
Again, what we're seeing, locker rooms for the sauna steam, not to do this, and instead going back to a nice shower. This happens to be a shower, but it's behind a door in a room, so it's very private for the women. This is what we were talking about again, right sizing for your weight station. This is a club where before, you can see the kitchen in the back, and what happened, members were coming in and they were seeing the kitchen. It was loud, they could see what was going on, and nobody ever wanted to sit at this table, so that table always sat empty. So what we suggested is we came in and we said, well, why don't we go ahead and they needed more room in this area too. So we came in and we actually, the wainscot and the paneling was already existing. So we just came in and took it to the ceiling and created a barrier for the wait staff to work behind this area in order to make it more functional, as well as the acoustics were great. No longer could you see the kitchen, as well as the noise was reduced substantially.
And what that provides is a place for them to store glasses, extra silverware, extra plates. They can get pour drinks, make tea, get ice. And this gets better service out to the customer, so they don't always have to go back to the kitchen. They're also able to take small orders there and finish them with it. So a bowl of soup, perhaps there's some pre-made salads. They can bring those out. If someone needs something extra, it's right there. They don't have to make a trip back to the kitchen. More efficient, less staff, better customer service.
So you can see what it was here and then what we did afterwards. But we left the opening right there, so you don't have to worry about a door. This is what the wait staff was before. It was, again, you can see how low it is, and the accommodations of just everything was crowded. And what we did, when we built it up, we were able to move a lot of things out of the kitchen and put it into this area. This is what was in the kitchen that we took out. We took out the big coffee pots, we took out a lot of the silverware, and again, we made it more organized into the wait staff. So now they took this area and they turned that area into another place for the kitchen. Again, this was the before, and that's the after. So they just cleaned it up a whole lot. This again goes back to right sizing. If you're going to do a spa room, or you want to add some kind of efficiency or an amenity, like a spa room, you don't have to have a huge spa room, because that's a waste of space. You could get away with about 120 square feet or 100 square foot room for a little spa room. But that goes a long way too, just to add another benefit or an amenity for your customers. Again, going back to a right size, and there's another club, and this is actually their dining room, and then this is the men's grill, and they're right side by side, and they're the same square footage. So you talk about an inefficient space. Hardly any of the men eat in this room because they go into the dining room, as well as you can see it's open right into the locker room, so the men that are eating, they can actually see their buddies changing clothes. So the inefficiency and the privacy was destroyed in this room. Therefore, it does not get used.
I'm sure you all are nice looking guys, but I want to see you butt naked while I'm eating a sandwich.
Again, we've gone into a lot of clubs where the right sizing is incorrect. You see rooms like this where, even though it's for a ballroom, it's still not efficient for what they're doing on a daily basis, so therefore it's wasted space. You go into a library, and this is all you have. So we go back to the right size, and we go back to the efficiency of space. We go back to know who your clients and your customers are, know the square footage. That's where we give you the cheat sheets of knowing not only how to do your return on revenue of what you're going to get the best function out of, as well as know your space and your square footage. Again, another inefficient. You've got this little bar area and this living room, and here they put up 2 chairs. Well, nobody's going to sit there and use the bar and do this. So let's revisit this room, and let's revisit what we can use it as in order to turn it into a more revenue-generating room. Again, the rooms are too big, not too much of the same type seating, so therefore it's very cold. And all you need to do is warm it up, different type chairs, another kind of paint, and make it more warm and cozy where it's not so cold feeling. This one as well is just it's just a cold feel, again, same size chairs, there's no flexibility. So there are a lot of ways to skin that cat and to do different things to make it a very inviting room. We also see some of the clubs, they're going into spas, which is wonderful if your club can afford it and do it. But we're seeing it doesn't need to come to, you don't need to have something this large. We believe that these days are gone where you actually have your hairstylist, manicure, pedicure. Now, if you want to do that, they actually have kits, and you can come and you can bring it in, and they're very affordable as well as very portable. And so it's just another amenity that you can sell to your clients if you need to.
Your larger clubs could do this. Smaller clubs probably not, but you can offer the same type service using these kits. And you use something like the spa room if it's not being used for those kinds of things. It gets back to scheduling. Again, use the spaces that you got and make them multifunctional.
We're seeing a lot of clubs that have a lot of wasted space in their hall rooms, in their hallways, and which is too bad because it's just dead space, and as we all know, that's money wasted right there. So we're trying to bring the clubhouses back down to about 3,000 square feet and making them very efficient and affordable. Too many hallways again, going into nowhere other than one room.
But also, you've got a lot of clutter in these hallways with all the furniture that sticks out in it. That reduces the flow. So if you do need the hallway and you've got all this furniture there, you make it too narrow. So it impedes people from walking down and using it.
Same thing here. You've got a lot of, what David was just saying, a lot of stuff happening in here. Nobody ever uses that. So it's just walking and it's just there. So that's a lot of furniture to put out there as well as money. And again, we go back, we've just walked into so many clubs where the hallways are just huge and monstrous, and you don't need to have that. This was just showing a clubhouse where they did, David, you want to tell a little bit about this?
Yeah, this is a club. This is actually the golf shop and the clubhouse, the cart barn. This is the restaurant for it. Now, they did happen to put it where the pool is, which is right here. But you've got all this space in between. They don't serve any food, except they've got a little small bar that's, again, has 2 chairs at it. This, by the way, is a beautiful golf course. If y'all would like to know where this is, I'll be glad to tell you. But this is a beautiful golf course. I'd recommend you go play it. What they asked us to do is to figure out how to connect these 2 buildings. And as you can see, we put something together, but because of the distance that you've got between the 2, there's no way that you can financially put something across there and tie them together. The other problem is that this restaurant down here had a kitchen in it, but no food storage. All the food storage came from the cart barn. They loaded it up in a golf cart, brought down what they thought they would use that day, and put it down here. The other problem is this restaurant had no gas, no natural gas. Everything was electric. It took forever to grill the steak. And once they got the grill hot, it worked pretty fine, but it took them a while to get the thing hot enough to grill the steak. But we went back in and put some things in. Now this particular layout, they also wanted to put some overnight rooms, a little golf villa over this part of the building. But their plans, while they will work, it's going to be very expensive for them to do that. And they have not gone forward with this yet, but these are things that we've been working with. But they've got some issues that they've got to overcome. It can be overcome, but it's going to cost a little bit of money to do that.
And then this area goes back to right sizing. And this is, if you notice that this is a pro shop, we've got an entrance, and then we've got actually men's lounge and the women's lounge. So this is what you call this is about 4,500 square feet right here, but the sizes were appropriate to what they were doing and what they were selling. So again, it goes back to making sure that your spaces are appropriate to what your members want.
And it's easy circulation between all the spaces, but there's not a lot of hallways. So it all kind of fits together.
Good.
Yes?
If you were to compare a right-size facility versus a Taj Mahal, how much larger, how much smaller is that facility?
Sorry.
The facility that kind of replicates where it was a lot larger, improper size, is 30% smaller or 40% smaller?
This one?
Yeah, to get all the elements that you need versus...
About 25 to 30% to get to the elements, because they still have a lot. As a matter of fact, downstairs they just have a small, very small kitchen, and they have a very small turn area, but they still large enough to accommodate their golfers to come in and at least have a snack and then to go back out again. And this is actually downstairs. This shows where they can eat. This is the kitchen back here. Again, they put their storage also, the cool, the freezer, and we're seeing a lot of facilities doing the cold storage, the freezers, and where the golf carts are. This is actually the clubhouse where they've got a lot of lockers here, but we did double lockers. This is the men's lounge. So if you can afford it, some of the clubhouses that we're seeing, they increase the volume of their ceilings and just make it height and just to give it a look if you can do that. You don't have to have a flat ceiling. Take this room as an example. It would go a long way just to paint in this room, to change the lighting out, and to do some furniture, different heights. And you can even do some ceiling mounted pendant fixtures, and it would just enhance the room 100-fold. Again, the same clubhouse where you've got the pro shop and then the women's lounge. And this again goes back to some of your space efficiencies that you can do. This goes back to a bathroom where you don't have to use your expensive marble. You can go back to what I was saying, the tile that's half the cost. So you can get your tile down to $2.50 a square foot and it can still look like marble. So you no longer do you have to spend the $5, $6, $7 a square foot. We're also putting in, instead of a wood floor, we're doing a tile ceramic, which is half the cost too, and it has the durability.
I guess most of the stuff that you've showed is just a traditional golf club. I didn't see a ballroom or anything like that. Can you speak on that for a second? Has the public facilities asked for a nice covered area that you've added to it? Speak on that.
On ballrooms?
Yeah, ballrooms not going with regular golf clubs, and then of course ballrooms almost always going with private clubs.
Correct, correct. The ones that we're renovating right now is interesting. We go back to, for the ballrooms, we're trying to also make that into very functional rooms where you can do your accordion doors that are nice and you can make it into a private dining room, or you can open it up into a ballroom. But with that, we go back to the clubs and we ask them, how large is your largest event? For in particular, wedding. So what is the size of your wedding and how big do you want to accommodate that wedding? So that's how we determine how large a ballroom should be. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the efficiency of furniture and the scale of furniture. If you want a ballroom and use it for a wedding, it's for 300 people. So what we'll determine is how much room will for 300 people will that accommodate, and that goes back to the square footage amount. So we almost back into it that way to determine that. And then within the ballroom, a lot of times we're seeing another bar put into the ballroom. If you can do that, where you have, that's kind of a separate room in itself. Am I answering your question on that, or?
Yeah, I guess also, is any traditional golf club more on the semi-private public side? Are you doing any ballrooms?
What we're actually seeing is that they want to try to get more flexibility out of the ballroom. They don't want the room to sit empty, so they're asking us, is there something else that we can use this huge room for? So what we're seeing is that they're dividing it up into smaller spaces, again, going back to being flexible. One club in mind is they've got a big ballroom, and then off to one side is a smaller space that they use for the pre-function, or they use it to put in the buffet line. So they have a place that's outside the ballroom so you can maintain the maximum number of seats in the space. There's other places that we've seen where they've actually been able to divide it up into either some type of accordion partition so that they have different size events in that space. Again, going back to outside space, have it adjacent to an outside space. So if you have a larger function, maybe you don't need a ballroom that seats 300, maybe you need to have a ballroom that seats 100, 150, but you've got other spaces that surround it that's smaller, that you seat maybe seats 50, that you can tie and pull back in if you have a large function going on. So you don't have a dedicated ballroom that's say that's going to be all-encompassing every event. And that's the only space they're going to have in the club.
If you remember the first photo we showed you with the golf club at South River, that was actually, and we showed you the before and after pictures. They actually have weddings in there, and what they do is they take all the tables and chairs out and they make it open. So to answer your question, if they want to rent it out and if somebody wants to use the full clubhouse, they will just remove the chairs and tables, and it's enough room to do it. But mainly for golf clubs, what we're seeing is about 3,000 square feet. They do have a pavilion, and even at this club, they have a, what is it, the tee, where they do the weddings on where the clock is.
They actually do the weddings on the range, on the driving range. They've created a very nice area up there. They've got some artificial turf that they did off of. They'll have the weddings up on the hill at the driving range. Of course, golfers don't particularly care for that, but they've got a schedule where it works fairly well. They've made it a nice area, and that's another feature that they sell. So they have ceremony up there. They come back down to the pavilion and have the reception in the pavilion. But they're using other parts of the club to handle the larger functions. Again, being flexible.
I'm going back to, again, your flexibility on your furniture. It doesn't have to be a low table. You can have, we're doing a lot and seeing these communal tables, which are so popular. Going back to different styles of your chairs that you can have. Again, the flexibility. We're doing actually a lot of chairs where you also, because of all the technology, you can get it where you've got everything's already hooked up into your chair. And then you have tablet chairs because people are coming in with their laptops, and if you want to make a room where you have the flexibility, these have been very, very popular. And some of these are just other grills and other bars that we've been a judge for several golf competitions. So these are not necessarily all of ours. I wanted to put some in so you can see what other people are doing with small grills and small bars, just so you can see what's out there.
The common thread that we're seeing in a lot of clubs is that people want to eat where the bar is. So it's really taking a big shift from formal dining into much more casual dining. And every club I think we've been in recently, that's been a problem. Is they've got too many seats, or they've got too many people wanting to eat in the bar area, and there's not enough room. So they want to know, can we expand the bar area to handle more dining? But with the caveat that it could be destroying the intimacy that they've developed and why they were in the bar room to start with, because they like the camaraderie, they like having people around them. So you kind of walk a fine line if you want to increase your casual dining with the bar. You get too far away from the bar with the table, so that it's not as desirable place to be.
This one went more for the Starbucks look. Again, a lot of young families, and so they wanted something more upbeat, not the traditional way. Again, you can see the flexibility. You have benches here, low chairs, your bar, so they're across the board, lounge seating with a fireplace. High ceilings, your flexibility of all of your lighting too. So the common denominator that we're showing you would be the outside space, the different type chair heights, the lighting, different type light fixtures, and just the ambiance in general. So you can see they're across the board. This is more of the Starbucks, come in and go, grab it, and leave.
Another thing we're seeing in clubs to increase their food and beverage revenue is they're doing a lot of meals that people or members can come and carry out. So you're almost creating a storefront. Do you create a separate entrance for that? Do you put in the pizza ovens and the salad trays and the pre-made meals? I don't know. If you have it as an outside window, and you've got a private club that has a fairly stringent dress code, if you have it as an outside window, they're not coming in the club, they can come in grubby, pick up their meal for the evening and go. They may not be using the club, but you're continuing keeping that kitchen busy and you're increasing your F&B by selling it to those families.
Again, more flexibility. And here, even in this back, you see televisions. We're doing a lot of sports bars and country clubs now and in golf clubs now, just because they are competing with the sports bar down the street. So let's add more televisions. Again, the flexibility in your lounge chairs. And where your pro shop doesn't have to be that large, but at least you can take the storage all the way up to the ceiling to accommodate. And for a turn area, just again, some seating, communal table again, different heights in your chairs. And just a warm feel, you can do a brick floor. So basically, to summarize, you don't have to spend a lot of money to renovate your clubhouse. Paint will go a long way, furniture will go a long way, the ambiance of the lighting will go a long way. So there are a few things. So I suggest if you go back to your clubhouse now, look at your lights. See if you can't change some lights out like David was mentioning earlier. Look at your seating. Can you afford to change out some of the seating where it's not all the same, a sea of the same thing? And then paint, perhaps the paint, that's all you need to do. So there's some minor things that you can do to really enhance it and go a long way.
Any questions?
Yeah, one of the things I find most interesting is how many golf courses, and I want to be talking about public golf courses here, I want to make that clear distinction. There's always going to be a place for the real traditional golf club, the private club. But what I find really interesting is there's a lot of public courses out there that are trying to really hang on to those traditional looks to a clubhouse, to the point where I feel like, for instance, I'm a PGA pro, and so I'm very familiar with this game. I've traveled to a lot of golf courses, but even I will feel uncomfortable in some clubhouses because of how stuffy it is. So I enjoyed the thrill of walking down the Pinehurst hallway just as much as anybody else does. But I feel like there's a lot of public golf courses that, you know, they're maybe at a $55 price point. They're trying to hang on to some of these traditional looks. And I feel like they could be really being a lot more creative and kind of breaking down those barriers to make the average individual or the beginner a lot more comfortable by creating a lot more dynamic environment. Have you guys done anything, any redesigning for public golf courses like that to kind of eliminate some of those stuffy traditional feels?
We have, and that's an excellent question. And this goes back into your age bracket and your age group and what you've got your members that are 55 and older who might want that old stuffy look and the traditional feel. Then we're dealing with the younger generation, with the families or not, and they want the high tech, the contemporary, the Starbuck, and they're the ones that are really coming in now and playing the golf as well. So you've got that fine line. So what we're doing in some of these public courses and clubhouses, we're actually catering more to, I hate to say this, but we're taking away some of the stuffy look, and we're going more, and I say younger generation, where it's more of the technology, the high-tech one. That's why we pointed out the Starbuck look, some of the things that are, you still have the nice effect, but it doesn't have to be stodgy and old looking. You can still have it where it's energized, you can come in, pick up something and go. So we're dealing with actually, and it goes back to what y'all were speaking on yesterday, trying to get some of the younger crowd to start playing golf. Well, a lot of that has to do with the ambiance of the club as well, because you don't want to be turned off when you walk into a clubhouse. It's like, that's where my grandfather, plays golf. I can't do it. So we're being very conscientious of that, and we're actually leaning more towards the technology. We're still putting the warmth in. We can still have the contemporary, but you can still have some of the wood. So there's a fine line there, but you have to understand and know how to do it.
And even in the courses, and it's not just maybe a municipal golf course issue, but in a lot of the clubs, you've got placards everywhere of all the members that have won different tournaments. You know, how do you keep that recognition for their deeds that have over years and years and years? You've got to own space. So we've worked with several clubs in coming up with ways to display all that information. Maybe it's not the same placard, but you still got the same name, and create different ways to enhance that throughout the club. Whether it's moves from the public hallways to the men's grill, to the locker room, but you still maintain that history. It's still a legacy for that facility that you want to hang on to. The same with the municipal clubs. You probably have photographs of what the older building looked like, or the history of the club that they want to maintain. So we work with them and with marketing people to put those kinds of displays together and incorporate that into the clubhouse.
But it is, we have to make it the young generation, get them excited about it and get them coming in. And you know, where do you start first? In the clubhouse to get everything going. You know, check in, do what you have to do, or whether it's the pro shop. So you've got to get them excited when you walk in and not intimidate them. And we've got to start pushing that way, because we feel like, y'all feel, as far as the playing golf, we have to do the same thing aesthetically for the golf club and for the clubhouse.
One of the things we try to involve whenever we work with the club is we want to work with the golf course architect. Because where the club doors ends, the golf course architect picks up. So we've got to coordinate all of that. We've got to make sure we've got the clubhouse and the views that we need is the same as what the golf course architect was intending to have. He's got an idea of what he wants the outside to look like. Well, we know what we want the building to look like, but we also want to know how that interfaces with his. So we work very closely with golf course architects to make sure that from the time they enter the property in their car, to drop the bag off, go park, enter the pro shop, pick up the golf cart, go to the first tee, all this has to work together. So that's a very important interlude between the two. So you've got to work with the golf course architect and the golf course clubhouse architect. All those two groups have to work together to make it all a seamless environment.
It's what we call first impression.
Okay, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You got to work with the golf course architect.
I think you would like that.
Yeah, he just throw these softballs at me. Thanks, guys, for coming.